All right. The gameplay's rolling, so it looks like we are currently live, guys. What's going on, everyone? Welcome tonight to another edition of the Xbox Roundtable podcast, with this being show number 252. Naturally, I'm Invader, and it's great to see everybody here tonight. As per usual, a lot of things to cover from the past week in the world of Xbox and all things gaming. The release of Pentiment, Phil Spencer's comments with The Verge, his latest interview as he's making the rounds, and the nominations for the Video Game Awards in December. Some surprises, some shoo-ins from the sounds of things. But lots of news to cover, maybe a little more than that. Lots of interesting things to go over. But first, where would I be without my awesome panel members? Let me introduce everyone who is on tonight, starting off with Crusader. How you doing, pal?
I'm good. I have been playing a lot of Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, that seems to be the latest crack for the past couple of days. What the heck? That sucker just appeared out of nowhere.
So it got really popular because it hit Game Pass, but it was in early access since last year.
Really? I didn't even know that.
And yeah, no, it was in early access on PC since last year, I should say. It hit Xbox in November. But yeah, no, it's really good. I'm like 5 achievements away from having all of them. It's just really good.
All right. Yeah, I've seen Mav and like a whole bunch of other people playing it, talking it up. I'm like, maybe I should give it a download. But currently working my way through Pentiment and a few other games. But we'll see. I mean, Game Pass has a few little indie gems I want to try out. But no, definitely. On your recommendation alone, I will give it a shot. Moving on over to Eric Shockley. Buddy, hey, how's things in your neck of the woods?
Pretty good. Just getting ready for a long upcoming trip to go across the country, but this week. But so probably won't get too much gaming in before the end of it. But no, ready to get into these topics here about Pentiment. I haven't got a chance to try that one. I saw got pretty good or had favorable reviews, so looked interesting. Didn't think I'd be into it, but maybe if it's highly rated, I'll give it a try.
All right. Yes, another surprise little game that's kind of popped up in a lot of favorable reviews lately. We will go into that later on. I've been playing it a bit, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Moving on down here, Centurion, buddy, pal. How's the gaming scene been with you the past week?
It's actually been going pretty damn good. We'll just say that. I mean, I've been playing the Outer Worlds. I bought the edition that came with all the DLC. Yes, I actually own the Outer Worlds. I am not one of those that just sit there and say it's in Game Pass. Why should I buy it? I buy the games I love. I support the developers I want to support. And yeah, so I was like, you know what? This is in my backlog. I got to play these DLCs. I've already beat it once, but now I'm going through a second time through the game, doing things that I didn't do in the previous playthrough that I did. Really kind of, I'm having a lot more fun with it. The first time I played it, it was more like just a grind fest. How quickly can I go through the game? Now I'm going through and modifying a lot of my. Somebody chuckle? What was that? Just
I'm sorry, I coughed.
I was gonna say Gesundheit.
I've been
no, you're fine. Oh man, just having fun. I'm chidefully having fun. But other than that, I'm looking forward to Tuesday. Debating on whether or not I should really throw the money down to grab Evil West. I mean, like, the only reason why it's like, do I wait or do I get it for the pre-order bonus, even though it's cosmetic? I mean, I've watched a lot of videos about it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. ACG was able to get a good hands-on. If you don't know who he is, you need to go check out his channel and see his little like 10-minute video on Evil West. To me, I'm excited. And one final note, if I may say something, just because I'm a film guy and a pop culture kind of aficionado kind of thing. My heart and condolences go out to the Green Ranger's family, because today when I opened up my phone, I found out that we lost the actor that played the Green Ranger for Power Rangers, a show that totally was like my childhood.
Dude, I was a huge Green Ranger guy. Like, well, we're the same age, so obviously we would like, some of the same things growing up. So Power Rangers was a huge part of my, I was really into it growing up.
Just real fun fact, not to go off topic, but the Green Ranger was originally only slated for 14 episodes in the season that he came in, or at least when they contracted him. But he became such a loved actor and character that after they had pretty much, sunsetted the Green Ranger character, because if you watch the show, he lost his powers and that power coin was gone. That's when they fully wrote him in as a full-time character as the White Ranger. So it's like without knowing, they hired somebody that became almost a fundamental face of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I saw it earlier today. I was like, damn, that's pretty shocking.
Dude, oh, it was, dude. Like, yeah, man, I mean, it just really stinks that, freaking, like, there's a lot of mystery right now on exactly what happened. But either way, we, lost somebody that actually, helped basically form, childhood memories for me. I mean, I loved having action figures, the dragon flute and everything.
Yes, I know. I still have a lot of those old toys in storage too. Damn.
Dude, if you got Green Ranger memorabilia, guys, dust that stuff off, man, because holy cow, you know how it is, like with art, man. Doesn't get worth money until you're no longer part of this world.
I won't take
his pops are gonna start selling like hotcakes, even more than they were.
Oh, dude, I was in a store today and I almost like forked out $110 for a dragon flute just to have it here, just because I'm like, dude, his freaking memorabilia is gonna freaking go everywhere.
So just to chime in here, we won't spend too much time on it, but like, obviously, again, I found out about the Green Ranger, the passing of him, and it didn't click in with me at first, but I have a few things on eBay and some other sites. One of them is a Green Ranger Funko Pop. And let's just say I was wondering why I was getting so many watchers and all these bids taking place. And then it just dawned on me, I'm like, oh my gosh, people are bidding on it because, his passing, and it's going up. Like, I guess it's going up in value now. And I'm just like, oh man, it's like, do I, like in a way it's kind of morbid. It's like, do I take it off? Do I keep it up? I mean, I wasn't doing anything wrong by keeping, by having it on sale in the first place, but it's like, and then I went to go check to see the prices of it. And like, there's some of him with his signature on them. And like, some people are like putting them up for really ridiculous prices all of a sudden. And I'm just like, damn, you're right. Like, Centurion, like as soon as that happened, like everything shot up.
The one do you have the one with his helmet off or with his helmet on?
Helmet on.
Then you've got the good one. I will say it right now. I have pops running around here. I just picked up one today from 2019. It's like a special edition Boba Fett, one of the 10-inch bobblehead ones. And like, when I look at the two of them, the one I want to get my hands on is the one with his helmet on, because the one with his helmet off is everywhere. So you've got like the sought after one.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really, I know that it's like vaulted and whatnot, but I didn't realize that it was like that heavily sought after. But hey, good to know. But I'll have to go through a bunch of my
Dude, pops are. If you ever come down to Arizona, pops are big business down here. I could take you to two stores right now. One particularly in the Arrowhead Mall. It's literally a pop store, wall to wall pops, floor to ceiling, every wall. little center mezzanines on pops. Like literally, the only thing this store sells is pops. And the basically rare ones, popular ones, hard to find ones. I mean, literally, that's what pops are big business out here.
Yeah. Either way, sad, very sad. So, but yeah, no, pops are pretty big business here too. They're everywhere. But yeah, no, very sad, very sad. And I see a lot of love in the chat for the guy too. Hey, guys, again, Power Rangers fan growing up, and yeah, huge Green Ranger fan. And I guess White Ranger too later on and so on. But I guess we'll just stop there. But yeah, very sad, very sad. TXR won't be making it tonight, unfortunately, but he will be back next time. As well, General MLD's running a little bit late, but he will be here sometime very, very soon. And what else? What else? Well, again, guys, it's just great seeing everyone here already, but hey, you know what? We would love to see more. So please share this show out and give it a like, as it does really help us out a lot with the algorithm and whatnot. Hey, I got a shell that way, right? But it's great seeing everybody here in the chat already. Just want to see a little more. Also, a reminder that we do have a giveaway going on, so check the description down below for ways on how to participate with that. The clock is ticking, so hey, get right on that, guys. Only maybe a week and a half away. Get right on it. Okay, well, on that note, guys, why don't we get into our first topic of the night, and we will talk about the Game Awards. And earlier this week, we got the nominees for all the categories, including the Game of the Year. Certainly looks like a few surprises there. I know that it was kind of a slow year, what with all the delays and whatnot, but still some pretty big games. I'm curious what everyone here thinks of all the nominations. I'll start off with my very inquisitive friend, Crusader. Bud, what's your reaction to the nominations? Anything really catch your eye in particular? Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
hello,
I can
hello,
hear
hello?
you now. Yeah, I got you.
I thought I muted myself, but it turns out, or I thought I unmuted myself. Turns out I had muted myself. So I thought all the nominations were pretty good. At least when they first came out. The only one that I'm rather irritated with is actually Stray being nominated for Game of the Year. If they wanted to put an indie in that spot, it legitimately should have been Vampire Survivors. I'm sorry. Like, having played both, and Vampire Survivors is just such a better game. Just through and through. Like,
but people like cats.
Market appeal. Which maybe that's why, because I mean, it's just like the Oscars, right? Where like shit that's mass market appeal usually is what gets nominated. But I otherwise I was pretty, I can't say I wasn't unsatisfied, right? Because like I have no real stake in it. Like I'm not winning an award myself. So I don't really care what wins. I'm more watching the awards every year just for the fact that we get game announcements at them, right? The awards, it's cool to be like part of everything, like and watch it all go down. But like I don't really, I'm not that invested, if that makes sense. And I thought it was generally pretty good. It'll be. I also look. Elden Ring has a good story, but I don't know that like together it's necessarily something that maybe should be best narrative. Because like I mean it has a very unique narrative structure where like it tells you everything like indirectly, right? Like and that's fine. That is a way to do narrative, but I don't think the story it was telling was good enough to make up for the indirectness that you have to go through to get it. And like I don't think that it synergized enough for that. So like I wasn't like the biggest fan there, but like again, I don't really know what people expect going into these things, because not everything. I mean, it's just like at the Oscars, like most things that you want or hope aren't necessarily there. And so I just kind of ride it out as like a cool time when like the industry comes together to show stuff off. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was good. I'm really annoyed that like Jeff Keighley on like Twitter will just like retweet the entire thread one at a time, and it takes up my entire 20 minutes. Like that was actually kind of annoying that day, that like it just took over my feed for a solid 20-30 minutes because of like him constantly retweeting it. but like, you know, I think the show is going to be good. I'm excited for it. It's there's going to be a lot of reveals. Hoping that we'll see like something like Dragon Age shown again. Since considering they just said that like it's playable from start to finish for just a few months ago, because it was revealed there originally a few years back. Same show that they revealed it the one year and then they revealed Mass Effect the next year. So yeah, I'm more excited for the Game Awards to see what we're going to actually be shown that's new, rather than to actually see anything about the awards. Like I don't.
I think most people are like that, to be honest. Even myself, I could really. I mean, there's a couple of categories that I'm curious about, but otherwise, it's all about the reveals.
Like, if there's a franchise that I'm really, really in love with, right? Like, it'll be like, yeah, I really want that to do really, really well, right? Like, Ratchet and Clank, I really wanted to do really, really well, but I grew up with Ratchet and Clank, right? And like Mass Effect, next time Mass Effect's, Mass Effect next gonna be nominated for the Game Awards. You heard it here first. That's my like 6 year out prediction, right? And so like I'll be rooting for that real hard, and like, but otherwise, like I'm not. I guess I'm more separated from it than a lot of people, because like I'm not winning the award, so I don't really care about the award. And that's true for like any kind of award. If I'm not winning it, or it's not like I don't have a close friend who works at any of these companies. Like if you were someone who had a friend who's like on the narrative team at Sony Santa Monica, right? Then yeah, you absolutely want God of War to win, because you want your friend to essentially get that award on their record. You know what I mean? But I don't, so I don't really care what wins. It doesn't make me. The awards don't make me like or dislike something more or less. Does that make sense? I will say that like with the indie category and the games for, well, what is it? Like the games for meaning or whatever it is, like the like that like True Colors won that, or the True Colors. What's the series that in? Life is Strange. Life is Strange like started that category where it's like the games that have like just like the deeper meaning and stuff like that. I forget which game won it last year. I like those categories because I actually learn about games that I've literally never heard of before. Like the indie category, there's sometimes games in there that I'm just like, what is this? You know what I mean? This year, I don't think it was that way. This year, I knew most of them. But so like, I guess that's one thing I do like about the Game Awards is like the sometimes I do learn about obscure games that are winning awards and I go check them out, because like if enough people are talking about it, then maybe maybe I should check it. And when Vampire Survivors got nominated for Indie Game of the Year, that's when I decided I was going to play it. And having played it, it deserves that nomination. I think it should have been nominated for the whole above Stray. But yeah, I didn't really think anything got. I don't think anything really got whatchamacallit, what's the term for like should have shown up but didn't, snubbed. I don't think, in my opinion, anything really got snubbed. Maybe Halo in the music category, but I think Halo would have qualified this year. So maybe Halo in the music category, because Halo Infinite, like, while it had lots of problems in many areas of its game, the music was very, very good. So like maybe you could call that a snub. But I don't. From what released this year, I think that it's basically what it should probably look like. And I will say that I'm a little. A lot of people call it a PlayStation SKU, and I don't think it's a PlayStation SKU necessarily as a third-person action-adventure SKU, and that just happens to be what PlayStation makes, because that's like the most popular type of game that there is right now. It's like the third person over the shoulder, and first-person gets thrown in there, but there are just less first-person games made than the third-person ones, and it's the same thing in the like that you see in the Oscars, where specific genres are like the ones that always get covered, where other ones that maybe are quite deserving don't get covered. People say listen, Microsoft wouldn't host the event at their own theater if there was an actual like bias towards a competitor. The bias is towards the genres, and look, Starfield is going to show up next year. It would have shown up this year if they released it.
Well,
it fits that genre.
I am curious about, again, the most anticipated game. I think Starfield should probably dominate, if not Zelda, but...
I'm trying to remember. I remember something being off about that list, the most anticipated game. There was like a game that in my opinion was like missing from it. Does anyone have the list on them that they can rattle off?
Yeah, I have it here. It's Final Fantasy, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, Starfield, and Zelda.
Okay. It was I remember. Wait, did you say Spider-Man?
No.
Yeah, the fact that Spider-Man's not there and Resident Evil 4 it was really weird. That's what it was like Spider-Man over Resident Evil 4 / Hogwarts felt really weird to me. Maybe it's because I'm not a big Harry Potter fan and I don't feel the hype for Hogwarts. But like I was shocked that didn't show up. And there's one other game that's a big game that's coming out next year that I was like, how did this not make it on there but the remake did? Does that make sense?
Well, to be fair, there's a lot of games next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of games, and I can't pick them off the top of my head. I remember looking at that category and being like, yeah, 90% of this makes sense, but there's a couple games that are not on there that, like, I'm honestly shocked that Final Fantasy VII wasn't on there over Final Fantasy 16, right? I've seen far more, like, not that Final Fantasy 16 does not have hype behind it, right? But I've seen far more hype for Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2, what is it, Reunion, than I have for 16. And so, like, there are some things where I'm just like, Jeff, this just seems kind of silly. And, like, I wish some other genres would get more notice. Like, I wish, because, what was it, Total War 3? The RTS?
Yeah, I've
heard it's excellent. Like, it's an excellent RTS, and people were sad that it like didn't show up at all, right? But like, it's the wrong genre to show up. Kind of like how superhero movies, even they could be the best superhero movie in the world, but they don't show up at the Oscars. Like, I don't think did the Dark Knight even show up at the Oscars way back when?
Maybe in the music category, but I can't remember.
Yeah, like I don't. There's just some categories that, because of what it is, it just doesn't show up because a lot of the critics don't know what it is because it's so niche, and that's a shame to me because
keep in mind, remember Forza Horizon 5 last year?
Yeah, I do remember Forza Horizon 5 last year, and that's part of my biggest problem with the Game Awards, which I wasn't going to bring up today, but I guess I will. And that's when it's held. It's held in December. The Game Awards wants to be the Oscars of gaming, right? And I mean, it is the most, probably the most well done show. Now, the DICE Awards are probably a better example of like actually critiquing games properly, but that's done exclusively within the game development community, right? Like, journalists don't vote on that. It's all development voted. And so like I have different expectations for them, right? Like, I expected this to be the third / first person shooter show, right? Like that's generally speaking what it's always been. But I think it should be held in February, and it should run calendar year to calendar year, not December to December, and and at the very least, if you still want to hold it from like November to November, right? You should make the cutoff date for submissions a month after the cutoff date for the game releasing. That way there is guaranteed enough time for reviews, because that was one of the big things that happened with Forza last year. Was Forza technically made the date as a game, but the reviewers didn't have time to actually review it ahead of submitting their votes. So like, because there's only a 2-week gap between the deadline for games and the review period, and for a lot of reviewers that's not enough time. Like that's what Jeff Grubb said about like their votes. Like they knew they weren't going to have enough time for Forza. Forza probably would have been nominated for more last year if it hadn't been for that. The other thing about Forza is it falls back to that thing that Forza's not a third-person action adventure game. It's not a first-person shooter. It's not
right,
and it's not a like an indie that captivates the world like Minecraft or Terraria or Hollow Knight or like those indies that like Vampire Survivors, right? It's not an indie that captivates the like entire world, right? So it's not as many of the reviewers who are reviewing it and who make up the council of people who vote on stuff actually are going to have even played the game in the first place, because it's not a genre they play. And that's just a problem with any kind of award show that's not done within the industry. And you don't have those kinds of award shows, right? Like, they don't. The only one that we have in the gaming industry is the DICE Awards, like I said, and there really isn't one. I guess it's the Tribeca Film Festival is kind of that, in TV film.
I mean, there's the
BAFTA.
that do Game Awards.
The Academy do that?
That's the British.
Yeah, they do Game Awards too.
Yeah, they're okay. And again, but the problem with those is, right, they're not big events, right? It's not something. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not something you tune in to watch. DICE Awards, you definitely don't tune in to watch. That's just they literally release it in an article, and that's all the fanfare, right? And so if you want the biggest ones that everyone comes to watch, the Oscars or the VGAs, they're run by the video game journalists and video game media, media personalities like Jeff Keighley, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to have a bias in that towards what the most common types of games or movies with the Oscars. You're gonna have a bias towards what those panelists honestly prefer, and that's just something you live with. Like, we live with it with the Oscars. It is what I'm gonna end up and that's, again, it's another reason why I don't really care. I'm showing up to Keighley's show to watch the games and root for Vampire Survivors in the indie showcase, because I will root for the indie devs that I like, because them getting an award could be like someone getting a studio and their next game being instantly published and them having economic security. You know what I mean? For them, it actually matters. Just getting nominated is huge for the indies.
Absolutely.
Good for those stray devs. Good on them.
Yeah, the Kitty Cat game did it. Yeah.
The cat game did it.
All right, I'll pick on someone else. But before that, Carlos Alvarado with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Carlos. 12 hours later, Act 2, really enjoying Pentiment. Yeah, I've got I'm still early on into it, but again, we'll talk about it a little more later, but it's an interesting title. Happy to hear that you're enjoying it. A lot of people seem to be. Let's see, Centurion Pal, I'll pick on you for... again, to go deeper into the Video Game Award nominations here. Anything stand out to you? Do you agree with what Crusader's saying? What else do you have to add to this conversation?
Well, if I could be absolutely honest, I've got something to add, but...
Please do.
That's where, so... Let me bring it up on my screen here. Because it's kind of like Crusader kind of validated what I'm about to say in the fact that Crusader doesn't care. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything. It's those terms, I don't care. And this is actually what Jeremy Pinter, if you're not familiar with him, again, another plug for ACG. I really love his podcast and stuff.
I think I know where you're going. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's go down this rabbit hole for you guys who didn't tune in to Gaz's show on Game On Daily Go Live podcast. Jeremy went down a road that I have to agree with, that the Game Awards are corrupt. Not that the people involved are corrupt. It's the system that has been created to create the Game Awards itself, like the rules they've put in place. His exact words were that this, basic, for starters, let's talk about how the dates isn't from January to December, and it's basically what he referred to as some nebulous day that we have no reason why it's that day. We have no reason why it can be another day. And I also have to agree with him, and this is my own opinion. We're talking about the day moves around. We all remember when Forza Horizon came out. Oh, well, it came out before the date for Game of the Year. So, we got it into the racing game category, but it came out before the date. But we're shuffling. But this year, apparently, if I'm correct, didn't Forza come out before God of War Ragnarok, but somehow God of War Ragnarok, boom, right in there. God of War Ragnarok, Game of the Year category.
Had a 1 month review period, though. That's the difference. Sony made sure that the game was in reviewers' hands a month before it came out.
Which is basically some of the corruption he's talking about.
Is that actually corruption, though, or is that planning? Just having your game in reviewers' hands a month so they have time to review it.
Let's also talk about how you said that it's the journalists.
I mean,
you know why YouTube is so successful?
Halo,
because the journalists basically shafted the entire gaming community, and they have gone around spewing their rhetoric and their bullshit for years. And therefore, why are we allowing, they say they involve influencers in these votes, when even Jeremy straight up said that it is probably more than likely the journalists have total control over how these games are basically slated out to us. And because people don't care, they get away with it. He even said that the Game of the Year title should be taken very seriously, and it should mean more than I don't care. And that's where I have to agree with him. We have all got into this system and this law of we just show up every single year for the damn commercials.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that is my guilt too. That's what I'm going there for, to be honest with you. And in a way, you know, props to Jeff and all them for getting some of those big commercials. Otherwise, I think a lot of people would not tune in.
Please let Crusader also speak. I didn't want to interrupt Crusader.
No,
I want to have his input totally.
So one of the things that like reviewers have been asking for years is to get games more than like a week before they come out to review them. Microsoft did it with Halo this last year, and it wasn't even for the purpose of the Game Awards. It was just to give it to them a month early for reviews, right? Almost all of the reviewers that I'm friends with had it a month early. Like I know Grub did, and I know I'm pretty sure Jez did. But like the actual review process, like how games are reviewed in general, and like how review codes are sent out, needs to be more standardized, more looked at in general. Like companies shouldn't have to ask for it. Companies should be given codes to review these games if they're going to review them. There shouldn't be you get it a week before the game and you can't talk about certain platforms like Cyberpunk. That was the greatest. That people, they should be investigated for that. Not the journalist companies, because they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, that was
like
kind of weird.
CD Projekt Red should be investigated for that. Like, that's just a massive problem, and part of it is that work on the games is pushed up until the deadline, whereas like that way back when it used to be that like, when the game went gold, it went gold and was finished, and you could send out your review copies at the same time that you were sending it for full production. So like, I have to take a step back with saying that like Sony's necessarily corrupt in.
Oh no, I didn't say Sony. I was saying I was saying the VGAs themselves, because what Jeremy called out for is Jeff Keighley and all the powers that be over at the VGAs need to be more transparent on the systems that are used to get these games slated into these nominations.
I agree with that 100%. I will say that a lot of problems with even the November time period can be solved with companies literally just sending out the review codes earlier, right? Like, we need more God of War and Halo Infinite style reviewing in the industry, period, right? We need more of it. That the people who are going to review the games have a full freaking month to review them if your game's going to be 60 hours long, right? If you're like Halo, I think it took me 30 hours, 40 hours to do everything. I can't quite remember. I mean, it's been a year. I can't quite remember how long. And I know God of War took me 45. I platinumed it. So like, if you're making a game that big and you want people to review it and you want them to have a review for day one, give them the time to do so. You know, and that was a big problem with Forza. With Microsoft did not make that decision with Forza. Forza I believe reviews went out a week before. Codes went out a week before the game launched, which was actually only a few days before the launch for the pre-orders of the deluxe edition. Remember how like all those users got it like 5 days early? So like the review period for Forza was a problem, just in general, like ignoring the Game Awards. Like we should be asking companies like Microsoft and everyone to give the reviewers more time to review stuff. And we should also be asking them to give more codes out to more people so that more people can review it, period. End of story. I hate seeing major games only have like 25 reviews early, right? We've had Halo didn't have that problem. God of War didn't have that problem, but like I've seen some Nintendo games have that problem recently. Switch the Pokemon game didn't. The Pokemon game got trashed as it should for the performance issues.
When you say more codes should be given out, who are you saying these codes should be given to? Because that's at least the other half of the argument that I have to agree with. That literally, it's like, not to be mean, but it's a lie fed to us that influencers are part of some voting process when they actually know that these awards basically lean heavily on major journalistic platforms.
You're not wrong. Well, number one, I would say that like I used to love when IGN would do the counter reviews where they'd have basically two people review it, and you would get like usually one that was more positive and usually one that was more negative, but at least it would be two different perspectives on a game from two different like people that had two different like very like mindsets in gaming at the very least. Because like another problem is like they'll send one review code per company, right? And it comes down to just one person at the company reviewing it, and then you get number one, you get the weird things where like you'll have a bunch of good reviews and then like one negative one, because like that was that person's opinion, and that's fine. But like I like seeing, even within companies and even within an individual review, seeing multiple people author their like an opinion section within them, right? So even if it was just more codes to IGN or GameSpot or Windows Central or Push Square or whatever website you want to pick, right? I'd like to see more individuals within a review rather than just one person. Does that make sense? Especially for larger games.
So, and I was just wanting to add on, like, because I see like 80 million or whatever tune like from Geeky Nerd talking about how many people tune in for the trailers. Like, I'm sorry, huge. But let's just point it out right now. Geeky Nerd, why do you come here to this podcast? You're more heavily invested into video gaming than probably 90% of that 80 million. Like, literally, you are part of a small demographic of people that actually love gaming so much that you're actually willing to listen to a show on YouTube. And that's the biggest problem, is anybody who is worth their salt in knowledge on gaming and enjoys gaming. I'm not talking to journalists, people like me, Crusader, Invader, everybody on this show, everybody that's on YouTube. We're here because we invest our time into something that we enjoy. And that's where at least the casual gamer or somebody who doesn't flip on a YouTube show, a Spotify show, even on Apple, on iTunes or whatever, where you can download podcasting. These people aren't tuning into podcasts like this. They're not watching the content that the community puts out. They rely on the journalists that basically have caused a lot of people to turn away from journalistic platforms because they get tired of, like, hey, such and such game company really treated me to an awesome breakfast, and then they asked me to review this game. I'm going to be completely biased on my review because I really enjoyed breakfast. Mm-hmm. It's a tactic. It's how it works. You like, literally, it's something that even the movie industry does. If you know, like, like, let's just say you're a film director and Joe Blow is the guy that's going to be the one who makes the decision on your movie. Well, you're going to send Joe Blow to a dinner. Hell, you might even mail that dude a Rolex. So that way, when it comes to voting time, he's going to have those gears going in his head. And he's going to be like, oh, man, this guy really treated me to a great dinner. He bought me this awesome watch. You know what? I like him. I'm just going to vote biasly because he really wined and dined me. It's the same concept in gaming. Literally, there has been stories about how journalists will be flown out somewhere in some nice hotel. They're given a really great meal, and then they're asked, hey, while you're here, would you mind reviewing this? It's basically kind of like, padding the outcome. And that's where I really do feel that you shouldn't give the entire community a vote. I just really do say that, some of the bigger some of the bigger gaming influencers, people with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers, millions, I'm just saying that the gaming journalism industry knows that literally the major part of the hardcore gaming community has turned their back on the journalists because they're tired of rhetoric. I mean, literally, Days Gone was a very good game for me. Let's use PlayStation. Days Gone was a great game. I enjoyed Days Gone, but right off the rip, gaming journalist. Oh, here we go. We not got another white male protagonist. Oh. What the hell does that anything to do with anything?
Well, Kotaku.
Like right off the rip. Huh?
I was going to say, probably a Kotaku article, right?
I'm probably, yeah, that's what I mean. And the thing is, it was done by somebody who basically wanted to just somehow push a narrative that the main characters are male. Then they decided to interject a race concept into it. And I'm like, dude, we play games to escape this bullshit because I'm sorry, the world is crazy and we don't want world events and issues coming into a hobby of ours. And basically now you're just bringing outside problems into something that we use to escape. And that's a big portion of why a lot of the hardcore community, I hate using the word hardcore because I don't care if you're playing on your cell phone or you're playing on the best damn gaming rig known to mankind. A game is a game.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so I just gotta take a look in the chat here. We got a super chat from Jujitsu50 for $4.99. Thank you very much, pal. Loving Pentiment on Act 3 and look forward to finishing the game. Lots of love for Pentiment. I can't wait to get into the conversation in a little bit, but yeah, lots of love for it. No, well said there, Centurion. Honestly, I understand your position. Yeah, no, I hear you, pal. Oh, General MLD, buddy, I just saw you walk in there. Just quickly, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. I didn't want to interrupt the flow there, but yeah, doing good. Sorry I'm late, but eager to jump in, put in my 2 cents.
All right. I'll get to Shockley first, and then you're more than welcome to chime in. Eric Pal, just curious, do you agree with what Centurion, Crusader are saying about the Video Game Awards, their perspectives? Also, what do you think about all the nominees?
Yeah, for the most part, definitely valid from both sides so far. Yeah, these days I just only tune in for hey, the big announcements, or hey, we're gonna see Hellblade gameplay for the first time, or stuff because at this point it just feels like they're when I looked at I think it was the year that Gears got completely subbed, and I was a big fan of Smash Brothers Ultimate, but it getting nominated for Game of the Year and possibly taking Gears 5 spot was just kind of egregious. It's Wii Smash Brothers, Wii U Smash Brothers with, hey, we brought some other characters back and we gave it more of a just kind of I'm gonna say story mode or a venture mode, an upgraded venture mode, and then that was pretty much it. We didn't really have to do much. Pretty much the same fighting styles. It wasn't some jump from the first Smash Brothers to Melee, or even Melee to some of the other titles. So when I see stuff like that happen, or where Forza doesn't even get a nomination, and I think Gears didn't even get I don't even know if they got nominated for action game that year, or it was like didn't get nominated for much that year. But then when I see like Stray get in there, I'd be honest, I haven't played that one, but I feel like Sifu got way more praise and it didn't get nominated for Game of the Year. But I feel like that should be in a case that was like way more talk. Like all the hardcore people that had like a PlayStation were playing it and I'm nuts about it and like, hey, I got to this, this part of the game at this age, and there was way more buzz about that game, and it's cool, like fighting style than Stray. Stray was more like, hey, I'm playing it, and the cat's right here, and he's acting weird and goofy in front of the TV because he thinks there's a cat there. That's the the extent of that. Now I'm interested in checking it out to play it, but I feel like Sifu should probably be in its place, and I don't think they should just an indie in there just to have an indie. Like they shouldn't be like, hey, we're gonna put 4 play titles in there, and then we'll have a slot for indie. If the indie's not good enough to be in that same ballpark, then it doesn't belong. That's it. But yeah, like some of the cutoff stuff, they should definitely switch it to more of like an Oscars thing where it's like, hey, there's plenty of time. That's the other part of it. Like if they held it in like say February or whatever, they would give enough space to where you could get your review in versus they do it like early December. So it kind of like screws over a lot of the titles that try to come out in say November because they're going to be forgot about by the time submissions go in. Or it'll be like Forza where it's just a weird limbo where, hey, you made the cutoff, but not really because people have already submitted. They shouldn't start already taking. They should have like like if they're going to give that cutoff date, they shouldn't start accepting the submissions before the cutoff date, because then you have titles that are like, hey, if you release right now, you're not going to be eligible.
So to clear that up, the cutoff date for submissions from the press is, I believe, 2 weeks after the cutoff date from the whatchamacallit. It's 2 weeks after the cutoff date for the games themselves, but they accept the things early, which is a problem. But also the 2-week gap is is another problem because some people just won't have time.
Yeah,
to review.
If they just didn't accept them early, then that kind of resolves it because it's like, hey, I gotta take
and
this
make it
into
a month.
account. Yeah, like you said, hey, I don't know. I don't get. It's an award show that I don't understand why they don't need that much ahead. When did Forza come out? Like in October or
Forza
September?
came
maybe
out in very early November.
Yeah, before God of War.
I mean, still, it's an award show. They can just announce that people are going to show up or they're not, whatever, or someone's going to accept award on their behalf. So you don't really need. I get they make their presentation, but you can just say, okay, here we got enough presentations. You just read what's on the card. There's not like, hey, shoot, now we have to get this person in here and prep it. No, you don't. You just read what's on the card and they get the word or they don't. But like I don't know why they need so much prep time for that, but they could extend another week if they needed to, like, hey, we're not accepting them until like 2 weeks after, and then you have a week to get them in. So you can presumably make them early, whatever, get them in. And I did notice, like, yeah, Halo didn't even get in there. I mean, I feel like it just got a lot of there's stuff that people don't like that is missing that they're more pissed about. And then I feel like that's probably why it just didn't, like how we were supposed to have Forge by now or Co-op by now. But I feel like when I'm looking at that, I'm like, was Stray better than Halo Infinite? I highly doubt that. Just all the that you can do in Halo Infinite. Loading up a whole Warthog with like 5 or 6 people with like plasmas, and it's just a huge playground. Like I had endless, fun just playing, not with co-op obviously, but playing by myself. And versus like that little cat, I don't honestly, I don't think that game's better than Sifu either. So,
to be fair, I
but,
mean, I've played a
I mean, I could be wrong.
I played a good portion of Stray. I played it at a friend's place. I got pretty heavily into it. It's an alright game. Honestly, it's a fun, and it does make you think. There's some interesting puzzles. Like I actually liked it, but do I think it should be a Game of the Year nominee? I mean, if this was a normal year that, we had all, the games that were supposed to land, like Starfield and so on, and a whole bunch of others, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that other games would take its place. But that being said, I mean, it's an all right game. I just, like, to me personally, like, yeah, I mean, indie games, like, should be able to be, like, Game of the Year nominees, just like any other AAA game. I don't know
won last year.
Right. No, and exactly.
Because that it's published by EA, but like it is an independent studio through their independent studio publishing program, EA Originals. Like, I mean, it won.
Yeah, I'll just be biased right now. Anything that involves cats and how cute they can be, give it Game of the Year right now. Just give it Game of the Year. You're not wrong right now.
Straight up wins.
Right.
I've said.
Mm-hmm. Now, General.
Yeah, I feel like Halo's. Oh, I'll just say that one last thing. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like with Halo, I was just saying. I feel like with this Halo, people just have negative things like, "Oh, I'm never gonna play this because I can only play in co-op." Like, it just seems crazy to me. But if they're just grading it on what was released, hey, we don't have co-op, and the multiplayer, free to play. They just graded it on its single player. I feel like it could be at least nominated, but the campaign was dope. I mean, it's the best Halo campaign we've had since 3, as far as one with Master Chief. So.
I would agree with you on that. Let's see. Yeah, General MLD, buddy. I mean, I would love to know your thoughts about the VGA nominations. Do you agree with what all the other guys are saying? Like, what do you have to add here? What do you think about the categories, Game of the Year, so on?
Okay, well, overall, I think like most Xbox fans, we look forward to the announcements. I think a lot Xbox, they're smart. They know the viewership for this is high, so they're gonna save a lot of good stuff for the show. So I'm looking forward to those first and foremost. As for the nominations, they mostly make sense. They're all high budget, high production games, all pretty quality experiences. Gamers love them. So I think my only exception is Stray, which people have also commented on. I think that's a little suspect. I mean, if we're gonna nominate a small indie kind of game, I think Grounded is a better pick in my opinion. I think, well, technically it was early access 2 years ago, but the 1.0 version released this year. It's finally complete this year,
and that's never mattered. By the way,
right?
For anyone curious about that, Hades was nominated in 2020? Question mark.
Okay.
But it had been in early access before that. So, like, anyone who says, but it was in early access, that doesn't matter. It's never mattered at the Game Awards.
Okay, that's good to know. So that makes it even more suspect to me, because that Grounded is a much meatier game. Because I looked earlier, like, how long to beat. Stray takes about 5 hours on average to beat. Grounded is a lot meatier than that. And it's co-op based, a lot of deep mechanics, a lot of biomes in the sandbox area. I feel like that's a much, I think it's overall a much better game if we're going to nominate a smaller kind of dev group kind of game for Game of the Year. But that's just me. I do think it's over compared to the other nominations. It does seem like a artsy token indie nomination, because I can certainly think of other games that, again, are also quality games, but are also higher budget that could take its place. I mean, you guys said it before. I think Halo Infinite is certainly a bigger experience and still a quality game. But I think again, for all it lacks at launch and the bad PR, I think it wouldn't have went down well if that was also a nomination. So I mean, I get it. It is what it is. It took Halo up until now to get to where it should have been day one. So I get that. But something else is that
Forge, by the way.
Huh?
We have to do it next week. Talk about Forge.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
Because we have it on the show, have we?
Oh yeah. That's the whole thing in itself. But obviously,
Yeah,
I've seen some things. It looks pretty good from what I've seen created there. But yeah. Also, another curious omission was Gran Turismo 7, because it got a high Metascore when it released. It was overall very well received. So I'm coming to a conclusion here. It's my own opinion that Forza and Gran Turismo were both equally snubbed, because I think in general, whoever makes these submissions for Game of the Year, whoever like makes these decisions, they just don't count racers in the same regard as other games. Maybe it's because it's not video gamey enough. Like there's no like like a central protagonist or video game fictional characters that you can rally behind. It's just a bunch of cars essentially. Maybe that's why. But I feel like now it's not. Yeah, last year it was kind of suspect that Forza Horizon 5 was omitted. But now I'm thinking with Gran Turismo 7 also omitted, I think it works both ways. I think now we just have to accept the fact that whoever does these Game of the Year nominations, they do not think car games count compared to a single player third person kind of game. You know what I'm trying to say. It's just not video gamey enough. So I mean that's food for thought. Like that's something to think about. But otherwise, I think these awards, how these games are chosen, I think they owe us some transparency. Like they don't really tell us the process of it. And also the cutoff date for the nominations, I always thought it was so stupid. Like, well, why can't we just do this stuff in like early January or end of December? Why does it have to be like some unknown time in November? And it's kind of weird with the dates of any games that kind of release in that window. It just doesn't seem fair, and it's just silly. And every year it kind of gets these arguments online going for it. I just think they gotta make it a little more simple. Like if you're doing Game of the Year, include December games. Like Callisto Protocol, in my opinion, should be a nomination for any awards because it comes out in 2022. I don't get this stupid cutoff point, but that's just me. But overall, though, obviously, I think this isn't Xbox's year. Their big titles were delayed, so obviously we're going to see more of a PlayStation slant. But I only see this as good news for next year, because the games that were nominated for PlayStation, they were all meant to be 2021 games. They all got delayed into 2022, and they were all the better for it. So I think this just bodes well for Xbox next year, when its 2022 games will go into 2023, and I think Redfall, Starfield, and I think Forza Motorsport, they'll be better for that too. So personally, I think Elden Ring should win Game of the Year. That was my first Souls game. It got me into the franchise. I think that's worth considering. If you can get like a really quality game out there that sells like 17 million, I think was the last official number, something like that. If they can bring in new people to the IP while maintaining the quality of the IP and not having to dumb itself down, I think that's like near magical. Like, well, what they accomplished there, I think that's worth considering. So I do hope Elden Ring wins, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
No, I totally agree with you there, General, and honestly, some great comments from everybody on the panel here. I totally forgot about Grounded. Yeah, you're right. September, like the full version of the game officially released. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen it nominated for something, but I don't know. Either way, guys, I mean, it is a strong year for PlayStation, and going into next year, I mean, again, like Xbox has a lot of titles going for it, and Nintendo too. And Nintendo has a couple as well. And next year is just gonna be crazy for gaming overall. But the Game Awards isn't too far away, and yeah, we only got a couple of weeks to wait for the winners and all the announcements from what they have there. But yeah, guys, if you're enjoying the show so far, then please give us a like, and hey, share this out, please do, because we would love to have some more people here in the chat just listening in and so on. But hey, on that note, I'm not gonna I'm just gonna cut to the chase and go into our next topic because lots to cover here. And hey, I got the gameplay for our next topic right here. We were gonna talk some Pentiment, the newly released medieval title from Josh Sawyer's team at Obsidian Games. A small game that's been getting, well, a lot of attention over the past week. I'm kind of surprised myself, but hey, I've been playing it today and got some thoughts. I know a few people on the panel have been playing it as well, and I would love to hear their thoughts on it. General MLD, buddy, why don't you start us off here? I think you've been playing it. I know you were pretty hyped for it. What are your first impressions of the game?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm about, as of right now, about 2/3 the way done right now, and I think my favorite part of this game is that it just feels so personalized. Like my gameplay will, like my playthrough will not be the same as yours or anybody else's, and that's why I think I like the most. Now, it's overall a choice and consequence personalized Western RPG from Obsidian. These headed by Josh Sawyer, the guy who oversaw Fallout New Vegas. So this is his passion project. It's his baby, and it shows. Like, now, let me also say it's a very niche game, not for everybody. Lots of reading, lots of walking. Takes place in the Dark Ages in some mountain town in Germany, or in what is now today Germany, in the early 1500s. So there's a lot of historical culture there. So it may put people off. You may get quote unquote bored, but I promise you, if you like, again, the allure of the choice and consequence, personalized kinds of games, I think the longer you'll play it, the more invested you will become. Because I think the real appeal is the immersion and the characters. Like it takes you back into a simpler time and culture, and every individual character, you get to learn about their individual wants and likes and what motivates them, and they all got something to say. And I think the hook is unique dialogue based on the choices you make early in the game. Think of like a Fallout game, where like in this game you choose your upbringing, like where you grew up, your education, your personal traits, what you specialized in or when you were studying. So it's a murder. You'll get like basically unique dialogue and just go from that. But it's a murder mystery at its core. You talk to people, you gain evidence. So basically, it takes place over a period of time, and the village changes on what you pick essentially. And also, that's another nice little part. The choice is up to you. So there's no forensics in this time period. Essentially, you talk to people, you gain evidence, you gain perspective, and in the end, you get to pick who you think the murderer is. And you could be completely biased if you so choose. You can go with your gut feeling, who you think is the real killer. And by the way, guys, the game does not tell you who the real killer is. I guess you gotta look up on the internet to find out. But in the game itself, you will not know if your choice was correct or not. You gotta make your own gut choice, or you can go with just someone you simply don't like, or someone you think just deserves to die. I don't know, but it's your call. And I think that's one of the real allures of the game. So without spoiling anything, I'm just trying to like sing its praises because it should be played by as many people as possible, despite its niche nature. I know it looks like a budget title because it is. It's only made by 15 people, and the art style is very unique. It's like based on the art style of the time period. So there's that. So I think it's a good thing because we just don't simply see games like that look like that. So I highly recommend it. If you're into Western RPGs, if you like Obsidian's work, I would definitely recommend this game, and try at least put an hour into it. Don't just judge it on the first 5 minutes. Let it play out a little bit for you, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So I'm looking forward to beating this game. Definitely within the next week, I should be able to tell you guys my overall final impressions. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough if you like a choice-based, more personalized kind of game.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've spent some time with it, not as much as you've only got a couple hours into it. You were very far into it, MLD. I would say, I mean, it is a very interesting concept. I mean, there's I mean, in some ways, there's not a lot to it, but then, as you said, with the just with the RPG mechanics and so on, there is a lot of personalization that you can do with it that I appreciate wholeheartedly. Like you said, you get to choose like what education, upbringing. Like, there's a whole like slew of things, and even the small choices that you make have a lot. Like, they matter, right, going forward. Because I noticed that even when like my interactions, like when I chose like for example where I was studying and so on, it came up a lot more in the conversations I was having. You get different dialogue choices and so on. I like the art style. I think like you were saying, MLD, it plays on again those old manuscripts and texts from like the 14th century. I mean, for myself, I mean, I love the classics, and I just really dig it. I really dig it. It's really cool. Going a little further, the audio is also very interesting. It's very subtle. It's a very quiet game. Personally, I would have liked to have seen a little more, I don't know, music, I guess you could say. I guess maybe that's just what we're used to, seeing like heavily orchestrated games and so on. But it's it's a very interesting that way too. You can even hear like when the text bubbles are appearing, the various the scribbles going, which I appreciate too. I appreciate. But the fact that this was made by about 15, 16 people is really impressive. Really impressive. And it seems to be getting a lot of praise. A lot of praise. I was actually surprised over the past week when I was seeing the reviews come out, and there was all kinds of different people, just journalists, praising the game. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest, especially right on the heels of God of War. So this just kind of came out of nowhere. So I'm glad to see the game doing well. I just wasn't expecting all the fanfare as of late. Did anyone else on the panel get a chance to try out Pentiment and give it a play? Centurion? No?
Yo, what's up? Sorry, there was somebody that came by the front door.
Oh, no, I was just curious if you had a chance to check out Pentiment or not.
Man, Pentiment. I definitely need to check it out. I will definitely say it is not a game that makes me want to run to Game Pass and play it, but the fact that it is in Game Pass, I am going to, that's the beauty of Game Pass. There's no other initial output that I have to do other than my fee for Game Pass, and I'm going to check it out. I know a lot of people have given this game a lot of, disses. They've made fun of it. Oh, Sony comes out with God of War Ragnarok, and here comes Xbox with Pentiment. But that being said, we need to look like, I like what one show said, and let's be honest about this. A lot of game developers today grew up in a different generation. We're talking like 80s, 90s, with things like Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop style games. And I forget who said it, but one review I was listening to, they were talking about how the game felt like it was like a video game version of like a tabletop game, making decisions. The decisions can have outcomes. And that's where like a game does not need to be full of graphics, doesn't need to have a AAA budget. It all you really have to have is a game. I mean, look at Vampire Survivor. Apparently the new crack cocaine for Game Pass is Vampire Survivor, and this game looks nothing like a AAA style game. And it shows that it doesn't have to have graphics, doesn't have to have name actors. As long as it's a game and it's a system that people enjoy, you have a game and you'll have fanfare for it. And I'm not going to knock Pentiment for being a game that doesn't exactly interest me. You know, like Invader knows I sat through and I did a whole freaking marathon doing the Sherlock Holmes game. The Sherlock Holmes games. Oh my God, tongue twister.
Sherlock Holmes?
Sherlock Holmes, Sherlock Holmes, blah, blah, blah. I know. Sherlock, we all know I suck with names. Sherlock Holmes games, you know, started with Crimes and Punishment, Devil's Daughter, finally capped off with doing Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1. Frogware is actually getting ready to remaster another one, which I'm going to check out. And like, so that's what I mean. I can dabble in games that are not mainstream. If for me though, Pentiment, I need to check it out. I'm not going to knock it, but I also want to say though, this is something that when you look at the developer of the game over at Obsidian, I forget his name. He was actually one of the developers. I think he was actually one of the guys in charge of doing Fallout New Vegas.
Josh Sawyer?
Josh Sawyer,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah. And he made a comment of like, there's a problem with working with a AAA branded game. You don't have a whole lot of freedom. You got to create a game that functions and flow. Like he used Fallout as an example. He needed to create a Fallout game that stayed true to the lore and it functioned and flowed how it should as a Fallout game. So there's barriers and restrictions to working with that. He felt with Pentiment, there was a lot of freedom that he had on getting this game out to the fans and that they were able to put a lot more heart and soul into it because they just had all this creative freedom that they didn't have over on Fallout because they had to make a Fallout game. They just couldn't go completely buck wild and do whatever the hell they wanted. And, you know, that's where I look at, you know, these developers, like, we take video games for granted right now because I'm going to be upfront. I was born in 86. There has always been access to me with a controller since I was old enough to understand how to play a damn video game. Some of these developers didn't have that. They didn't have access to all these video games that we're used to nowadays. Like, I mean, they weren't able to pull their cell phone out of their pocket and call somebody, let alone play a game on it. And, you know, they're basically taking concepts that they learned from games that they played. And back in those days, the big ones were, like I said, Dungeons and Dragons, which were a tabletop game, and it was turn-based strategy. And you literally had to get a group of friends together to create these big adventures together. And I really do, they're putting some of that love for the games that they grew up on in these newer games that create concepts like Pentiment. And that's why I'm never going to diss it. Because it's not something that made me go running to my Game Pass subscription to download it. It's still a game. There's still love, heart, and soul there. And at the end of the day, let's face it, it's done by Obsidian. There's polish there. There's quality there. I mean, it's not like it was just some random glitchy piece of trash. It was literally a polished game. So again, I need to check it out. I haven't played it, but I'm also not going to be one of these ones that sits there and tears down Microsoft like, Pentiment, this is what you gave me while they've got God of War over there. No, this is what makes Microsoft, Xbox, a very different kind of gaming company. Sony wants big budget, blockbuster hits, cinematic experiences, Michael Bay-esque production. Xbox is over here giving creative freedom. Make a game, do whatever the hell makes you excited to make a game, and let's just give it out to the masses because there's a lot more flexibility over at Microsoft when it comes to the freedom that the developers have on being able to create whatever they have passion for.
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree with you on that. I mean, we'll see if I stick with Pentiment. I see good in it, but I'm also getting a little tired personally. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll still stick with it for now.
At least, again, ACG, at least over there with him, when I listened to his review on it, he said that game was like a slow burn for him for the first couple of hours. And it started really ramping up like hour 3 or 4. And he really wished that the game had got a lot more of that earlier in the game.
Well, so far I would agree. But again, I'm still kind of early on too. Now, you brought up Josh Sawyer, which is interesting because he had a recent interview as well, and he talked about Fallout and what he'd like to do next with it. I don't know.
Oh, that got me excited.
Yeah. Do you think that Xbox would like greenlit like a Fallout New Vegas 2? Like, because he went on to talk about like some ideas that he had. Like, I don't know if they were hints or what, but he talked about, I've thought about a New Orleans setting, California, Midwest. Like, I don't know.
Those were all settings that they touched on in New Vegas. I don't know if you played the DLC for New Vegas. I played that game up and down, left, right. I mean, I literally was every square inch of that game. And yeah, so for starters, one faction, the NCR, the New California Republic, you could easily have a Fallout game take place in California, because basically that was the government that was left over that survived in California came together and formed the New California Republic. And if you really get into Fallout New Vegas, they were actually at odds with the Brotherhood of Steel. Where the Brotherhood of Steel just basically they hey, we're ex-military, we're ruthless, we don't believe anybody should have access to technology. And that's where they didn't like the fact that the NCR had access to technology, and the NCR wanted to help people, where the Brotherhood of Steel just wanted to hide in their bunkers and do whatever it was that made the Brotherhood of Steel, the things that they did on how they just basically lived their lives. But then another DLC, you went to, I think it was like Utah, where you explored the mountain ranges and stuff up there, and you learned about how people survived in Utah. And they even, I think, as a matter of fact, there was even a DLC where they went and explored, I think, actually somewhere down. I don't think it was bought. Crusader, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, because I know it had something to do with New Orleans, did it not? Or was it Mississippi?
I thought there was one in Reno. I don't
there was one in Reno. There was one in Reno, but there was another one where you like went and oh my god,
I don't remember. It's been a long time.
I'll be honest, I don't know, guys. I didn't play the game, but I just heard.
It was like I'm not. Maybe I don't want to get confused with Wasteland either, but it was like the Sons of Adam, or something like that. Where
that was
it
in
was
Fallout 4.
That was 4, yeah.
Okay. So Fallout 4 was the one that explored a little bit of that particular region. So okay, you're right. That was where they had like the Boston or the Mississippi. Like basically delve into that, because I remember you had to like go find one of the submarines that were out in the ocean, and you also had some cult there that were literally worshiping some radioactive thing, and that's where, I mean, like, there's always been these hints to Fallout, and I think it'd be awesome to re-explore Fallout New Vegas, because dude, I mean, I'm gonna be upfront, I loved what's his name? Oh my gosh. Frank Sinatra, that's his name. I loved how in Fallout New Vegas you had like these Frank Sinatra style characters. It was literally a wasteland futuristic version of Las Vegas that gave you these old school Vegas vibes. And I mean, like, dude, Fallout New Vegas has a special place in my heart. And it would be really cool to re-explore that area of the world in that particular situation. Not to ramble.
All right. Very interesting ideas there. Anybody else on the panel have any thoughts on Josh Sawyer's comments regarding like possible Fallout next locations? I mean, New Orleans I think would be pretty cool personally. But then again, I'm not against anything that he suggested. Like, again, more of the Midwest and so on. I don't know. I think there's lots of possibilities there. I don't know. MLD, were you a Fallout New Vegas guy? How about you, Shock? Fallout New Vegas guy at all?
Sure. I mean, I never played it. I played Fallout 3 and 4, but from what I hear, it's pretty dope. So I'd be up for a sequel or remake or. But yeah, I purchased it. I just hadn't jumped back into that 360 title.
Mm-hmm. All right.
See, somebody just corrected me in the chat, and I'm glad he did. Fallout was never David Weinholt. Fallout was never in New Orleans or Mississippi regions. Fallout 4 was the Boston area, northeast of USA. There we go. Sorry, I just remember. Well, the only reason why I bring that up is because when you were there, in some of the stuff you would read, because Fallout is also one of those games, just like it's something that that Bethesda is known for, with the books and all the notes that you find. And there was like hints in that particular DLC that they really wanted something to go down in New Orleans, in the New Orleans or Mississippi area, and it never made it there.
All right. Good to know. Good to know. Guys, any other comments on, Josh Sawyer's comments before we move on? All right. All right, guys, we will move on to some other things then. But guys in the chat, hey, again, great having you here. And if you're enjoying our conversation, please slam the like button. And hey, sub to the channel if you're new here, because we would love for you to stick around, of course. But yeah, why don't we round out the night talking about some stuff that Phil Spencer has been saying as he's been making the media rounds as of late. This past week, he talked with The Verge, going into matters such as the importance of Candy Crush going forward for Xbox, assurances for Call of Duty, and games shipping too early, how he wants to really get away from that. Now, Shockley Bud, I'll go over to you first on this topic. Phil Spencer touched on a number of things in this interview, but I found his comments, for example, on Microsoft shipping games too early to be kind of interesting. Judging from his commentary, do you think that they've learned from their past experiences? Like something like, again, for example, that's more recent, Halo Infinite, that comes to mind. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, with that, like launching games too early, I think that was more out of necessity. Like beforehand, they just didn't really have much of a choice. It's either, they pretty much, at a certain point, they do have to release something. And that's what I think the issue was with Halo Infinite, even though they, did give it a whole nother, which, kudos to them. They at least delayed it a year to at least polish what they could. But unfortunately, when you have so many people like switching out, from because if you lose somebody, people like want to just lose their minds and think everything's just going to be shit. But it all just depends on, like, when Joseph Staten comes in. Sure, there's no need to panic, but if you also have nothing else and you have to rely on that game, and you can't, like, hey, we'll push it out because we have all these other titles coming out, so we can eat this one and just like push it out because we have Starfield dropping or whatever. Then that would give them maybe some leeway to not release it, but they couldn't just like not. They already didn't really release anything in like 2020, and then would have only had like Forza for last year if Halo didn't drop. So if they had some other titles dropping in there, from the studios they purchased, that would be able to help them. But I think they've learned their lesson. It's just people expect, the purchases they made in 2018 to just be like, okay, cool. You're going to be like, we owned you for the past decade and you just released a game. So you're going to hit the ground running for these next 4 or 5 years. You're going to easily release a game. And I mean, a lot of them were taking the money and investing or making their offices bigger, recruiting more people, beefing up for newer projects, or we're finally transitioning from, hey, we're not just this help studio and we sometimes do, small or AA titles once in a while when we get a chance. Like, they can actually transition, actually make projects of their own and not just be support studios to keep the lights on. So going forward, especially if this Activision deal goes through, they would have already had the Bethesda studios that have already been working on their projects, so they're going to have those titles drop next year. And then the 2018 studios that they bought, obviously those games are going to be coming here. We've seen gameplay already from Hellblade, so if Starfield and was it Nightfall, or what's the vampire game?
Redfall.
No, okay, cool. I thought that was it, but then I was thinking Destiny now when I say Nightfall. But those games coming out then they'll probably have some of those 2018 studios start dropping the year after. Hopefully we see like Avowed soon or Hellblade, one of the two, for say the following year. So I think they've set themselves up perfectly to, hey, we're not going to be out of necessity. We're not going to have to like force us to release a Halo, or, Forza game, another Horizon Forza game within 2 years of the last one. We're basically releasing a Forza game every year. Forza, Motorsport, and then Forza Horizon, year on and year off. So that's valid criticism that they've obviously had in the past, but now they actually have the studios they should have had in place a decade ago, and not just now. Should have done this in like the mid 2000s when they had their foot on Sony's neck, but they didn't. So I think they've addressed the issue. It's just, unfortunately, time is going to have to be a player there, and people don't want to wait. So it is what it is. But yeah, as far as like the whole like Call of Duty stuff, again, he couldn't be even more clear than he was here. Like you said, as long as there's a PlayStation to basically like play it on, like as long as they people are still buying it, I guess it's going to be there. So I don't think there's any question the deal is going to go through. It's just what concessions or what like things in writing they're going to have to like commit to, of like, hey, we have to actually put it in writing indefinitely, Call of Duty, or I don't know, one of those things. But I was trying to think if I missed anything else that he said other than
Candy
the whole
Crush.
Call of Duty. Oh yeah, Candy Crush, and that's also their good argument and play for making sure this deal does go through. Of like, hey, we're a smaller player in that realm, and I think what was that article? Yeah, it was that I don't know if it was Decoder or if it was Video Game Chronicle, I think it was. They had that headline where it says, and from this interview that Phil says Xbox is going to have a decline or whatever if they're not jumping over to like mobile. Like without mobile, they're going to suffer or whatever. But he never even said specifically Xbox. He said all of us, like mentioning Sony, like everybody. If we're not trying to get a piece of that pie in mobile, you're going to be falling behind, because that's growing exponentially bigger and bigger, and the console space is just kind of growth wise is just kind of staying flatline. Like you might get a bigger piece of that group, but that group's not getting bigger itself. So all you can do is maybe dominate the console space that's already there, but there's not a big growth of new players coming into that space for you to gain even more market share. But that's just another thing with like media, where they can just flip. If you just read the headline and not the actual quote in the article, he never even says the word Xbox, but then the headline they say, oh, he's saying they need mobile to, otherwise Xbox isn't in the long run going to be in a good spot. So I thought that was funny from that Candy Crush part. But that's a good argument for them to like set in there, like, hey, we need this because we need King to be marketable and be a player in the gaming market. If they can point that to the EU and these other regulators looking at it, we need this because in the long run the pie is way bigger than just this probably the small lens that you're looking at as far as like between Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox. It's much bigger than that. So, but yeah, that was as far as my 2 cents on his article and his other one with from VGC. But
all right. I mean, some fair points there. Yeah, I mean, lots of arguments going forward with like Candy Crush for the Activision Blizzard deal and so on. General MLD, I mean, I would love your thoughts on this because, again, Phil went on to talk about, he touched on quite a few things. What do you think about his commentary? I mean, he talked about obviously Candy Crush being a big part of the Activision Blizzard deal. He touched on quite a few things. Obviously, Call of Duty, games shipping early. I mean, what's your take on what he said? I think MLD's away at the moment. Crusader, I mean, I'll hit you up next. I don't know if you caught what I said, but like honestly, what do you think of like Phil's comments in the latest interview? Do you think do you agree with what he said about Candy Crush and like all of the other stuff that he said?
So I'm happy that the Call of Duty argument is over. It has to be. It has to be, right? It has to be over. We don't have to talk about it anymore. It's objectively going to be everywhere.
Yeah, right.
I don't think he can say it any clearer than it's not a real threat.
MLD?
We're just going to put it there.
Sorry, you guys hear me now, right?
Yeah, I can hear
I'll wait my turn, but okay, good. Yeah. Continue. You restart, don't worry.
I'm so happy that the Call of Duty argument should be dead and over, and that looking forward, if the game is going to be a big success, right? Like if it's going to be a huge, like everyone's going to play it marketplace, it's probably going to be like Call of Duty, right? If they buy it, you know, what have you. Happy that's over. Well, I found the Candy Crush stuff very interesting because they've been pretty adamant about really wanting to get into the mobile space, and it's been rumored that they want to open their own mobile storefront as a competitor to both Google and Apple, and that would actually give them a lot of leeway in Europe because especially the European Union really wants to force like open app stores on mobile phones. So if like a large competitor could actually enter that space, that would be really big. And Microsoft would have the backing. They'd have the ability to get it off the ground instantly, and they could do it. So that's a really big like pro in their favor, so to speak. At least in my opinion, it is. So that was super interesting. It was a very good interview. I recommend everyone either give it a listen or a read. He does talk about like the CEO of gaming title meant. That like there was no plans. He just walked in the office one day and Satya told him he was they're calling it the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, and he does like go into saying that like that is to differentiate it from like Xbox is a portion of that, but that's to differentiate Xbox from like the mobile ventures and things like that. That like it's all under Microsoft Gaming, it's all one unit, and it's all going to be handled as almost independent from Microsoft itself. Like it'll still be under Microsoft's budgeting and everything like that, right? Like, but it's like LinkedIn where they will be like holistically self-managed, and like the only thing that they really have to they have to argue for their budget with the overarching Microsoft. And like if they want to make a large scale acquisition that's outside of their purview, like Activision Blizzard, it is they'd have to go through the overarching Microsoft. But like they are independent and could be theoretically spun off as semi-independent, which like they wouldn't be like their own company, but like they'd have their own stock value, but like the majority shareholder would be Microsoft as a company. And so like they talked about like the potential business future of Microsoft, which is really interesting to me. And it really goes to show that he was talking about how like Satya really takes gaming seriously within the organization, which is like that's not something that was always the case. Everyone should probably recognize that just by looking at how they were run for years because they were part of Windows. But overall, I thought the interview was great. I'm really excited that the Call of Duty conversation should be over. Because I'm tired of talking about it. It's gonna come to Switch. It's gonna be everywhere. Everyone should be happy. It's Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's gonna
Who
be
cares?
on Switch. It's gonna be
everywhere.
on Switch. It's gonna be one of
Um,
those games that you buy the so you buy the game, you open up the thing, and there's nothing there. It's gonna be one of
Yeah.
those cloud-based games.
Yeah, it'll be a cloud game on the Switch for sure. But like, you know, he really hammered it in that like, hey, it literally would be fiscally irresponsible of us for a game of this size with the marketplace that it the marketplace that it has, the interconnected shared I should say, yes, he explicitly stated over and over again that there is a huge like profitability section to it. Not that it couldn't be profitable alone on Xbox, but like it's massively more profitable if it's everywhere else, right? Like, there's a ratio. But even more so than that, that it was like with that franchise, that it's like literally the right thing to do with the franchise. And he said that that's the exact same reasoning that they had with Minecraft. And finally, we have confirmation. I knew there was something from this interview I wanted to talk about. We have confirmation that there is no contract with Minecraft to be multi-platform. There's no written words anywhere that says Minecraft has to be multi-platform, but they make it multi-platform because one, it's financially the right thing to do for the franchise. Like it would be financially irresponsible not to put it everywhere, right? Because of how popular it is.
Well, I remember 6 months after they bought it, they made up their money.
Yes.
Like, so it's a gold mine.
And it's not like they knew from day one that game, like they've known from day one that Call of Duty was going to be multi-platform, right? But they knew from day one that Minecraft was going to be multi-platform. They said as much in the acquisition agreement. That was probably a term of the acquisition agreement with Mojang that they didn't want anyone to freak out, and they wanted people to know that it was still going to be everywhere. Like not that there was a contractual agreement that it had to be everywhere, but like probably that like, hey, we know that you've told us that this is going to be your plan moving forward. Can you tell everyone? Can that be a term of the thing, so that we don't have like the poor community managers and shit don't have to deal with people complaining? And Phil was on it day one with Call of Duty, or not day one. It was like day 3 on Twitter. Was like he said something vague, but it was everyone with a brain took it as okay. Call of Duty is just gonna be everywhere, right? And it's very cool to know that they do look at these things and think about what's best to do with them, right? And that's why I harkened back to remember way back when with Bethesda, and Phil said that like it was going to be a case-by-case basis.
Right, yeah.
I truly believe he meant that. That like the majority of cases, yeah, they're going to be it's like almost always going to be exclusive, right? But like maybe there are some games where like it makes sense. You know what I mean? Maybe there are some things where it would make sense. So we're not just going to say, yeah, everything's going to be exclusive, because it doesn't make sense to lock ourselves into that. Because maybe they do have some kind of runaway success MMO with ZeniMax Online. And like maybe it does launch as an exclusive to start, but like look at how popular it's become and yeah, we want it on like literally every other device, because like profitability wise, it makes so much more sense. And getting people to play together, because like he stated that like he doesn't want this situation where like with games that you are meant to play together, that he doesn't want the device to determine that, right? He said that in an interview with Bloomberg, I believe, a few months back. I think it's translated by or I think you can see the VGC version of it because Bloomberg has a paywall. But he said that like he was saying that like he expects less console exclusives, but he explicitly states like if you read it, his words are multiplayer games. And you know, maybe he does feel like, oh, you know, maybe we do launch this game as an exclusive, but like, oh my god, it takes off and it's everywhere, and like maybe it makes more sense then to take it and put it other places, because that would be the best thing to do with that franchise and for players, because more players playing together, no barriers. And I the more he speaks, the more I believe that like he's like, when I want to make less barriers for people to play together, I mean it. You know what I mean? But like Starfield, you don't play together. Not gonna go anywhere else. Doesn't make sense, right? It for the same fiscal reason. Like it makes more sense to grow everything else with it. So like it's very insightful to like take all of these like interviews that they've said, like that they've had, and kind of like put them all together and look at them together and get a picture of like what goes on in his mind. And he's not as corporate as most people, right? Like you can tell he's a gamer like us. And he just wants people to play video games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was a great interview.
Yeah, no, some wonderful Timbits there for sure, Crusader. General MLD, would you like to chime in?
Oh yeah, sure. For one, I think we're all lucky that we have a very, very transparent executive here in Phil Spencer. He's very upfront and honest about these things. It shows that he's listening to us. For one, game shipping too early. Like, yeah, he hit it around the head. It shows that he's listening. They're learning their lessons. They delayed Halo Infinite, but they should have delayed it even more so, and shouldn't have given in to certain demands or holiday periods. Just release the game when it's ready. And yeah, it's good that they learned that. And I think games like Redfall and Starfield, they will definitely benefit from it, because if these games launch polished and like pretty much how they should be, especially Starfield, I think it's going to send ripples throughout the industry. It's really going to make a real statement that with Xbox, they're finally they're a force to be reckoned with. So it's good that they're doing that. Call of Duty, as these guys said, it's nice that he could not have made it more clear. There's nothing to deconstruct. There's no nuance here. He said it will be multi-platform. There's no Game Pass or xCloud kind of condition. It will be on PlayStation natively. And all Xbox fans, I think most of us, we accepted this a long time ago. We see the writing on the wall. It's win-win this way. Treat this game like Minecraft and bring in those hundreds of millions of dollars every release and use that money, reinvest it back into Xbox, into the ecosystem. So we will continue to get more day one games, more time exclusives. PlayStation gamers will essentially fund our subscription and help it grow. So I like to think of it, Call of Duty on PlayStation, as a Trojan horse. Like, it will dominate their charts more than their own first-party games, and in the end, we will benefit from it because of that reinvested money into the Xbox ecosystem. So I can't complain about that. So Call of Duty is just too big. Let the other games be exclusive. Like if there's another Crash Bandicoot, another Tony Hawk, Spyro, whatever. Those games should be exclusive, which is good. I mean, if you're going to spend this much money, you got to get some exclusives out of the deal. But for one IP to be multi-platform, I mean, Call of Duty, I'm perfectly fine with that. The real prize is us getting those games on Game Pass. So while they'll be paying $70, I'll be paying $15 a month and play the exact same game. So it's win-win. They get their game, it's not taken away, and we get the same game but for less money. But Candy Crush. Now, that's actually a pretty significant point. A lot of us core gamers, we hear this game and we just we scoff, wave our hands like, come on guys, well, why are we talking about this? It's mobile games, it's casual stuff. Like this isn't our thing. I like to think of this as a bigger market that if Xbox does well, if they really cement themselves in it, again, like Call of Duty be on PlayStation, that is money that can be used to sustain Xbox as a whole and sustain the parts of Xbox that we do like. Again, taking that Candy Crush mobile money. Again, Call of Duty Mobile, that's a thing too. Activision Blizzard, they also have Hearthstone. That's still pretty popular. They got plenty of mobile games that generate a lot of yearly income. So Xbox doesn't have to start fresh like PlayStation is. Like they bought one mobile developer. The Xbox can hit the ground running and instantly rake in billions of dollars in mobile money every year and grow if they plan to make more than that. And again, that will grow Game Pass, that will grow Xbox, and we'll get more timed exclusives. We will get more day one games. That's how I see it. You have to keep your eye on the prize. I'm not going to play Candy Crush, but that's not the point. The point is everyone who does, that money will benefit me in the end somehow. And if they somehow integrate these games into Game Pass, or you have to have an Xbox account to do so, We're all part of the Xbox ecosystem, and everything helps each other out. We're all one big family here. And in the end, that's how I see it. And Phil Spencer's right. The console market, it is pretty flat year over year. Approximately every generation, you got maybe only 200 million consoles sold every 6 or so years. And PC is also relatively flat. Mobile gaming, it seems to be the only place that has room to grow. I think also cloud has a lot of potential too, as internet connections grow more stable and stronger overall over the years. And I think that's where Keystone will come in, that rumored xCloud box. I feel like once Xbox can get a good price down, like a good solid $100 to $130 launch price with a controller included, xCloud will boom in countries with low console adoption but high mobile usage, like I don't know, Japan or South Korea, things like that. The bigger Game Pass grows, the bigger Xbox grows, we all win. So that's my overall point. And yeah, Xbox, they're playing four-dimensional chess right now. They're thinking beyond the box. It's not just about consoles anymore, but that's a good thing. Xbox is now going to dominate in PC, mobile, because people like to compare. In the end, we're all still, many of us are still very tribal people. We all like to compare Xbox versus PlayStation versus Nintendo. Mostly Xbox versus PlayStation. But that was usually only confined to the console space. Pretty soon, we'll be comparing Xbox and PlayStation in their PC efforts, in their mobile efforts, in their cloud efforts. And Xbox will be beating them in every single category except for console. But even then, console, they're going to catch up. Slowly but surely, they're going to chip away that market share. They're going to chip away at that market lead because of the sheer amount of developers and publishers that are under their wing. The amount of games that Xbox is going to release every year going from 2023 and onward is going to be staggering. This will be the last dry period, 2022, that Xbox will ever see. And I firmly believe that. There's just simply too many developers now under Xbox's wing. So while every other market is going to grow for Xbox, console will grow slowly but surely. And yeah, it's very exciting times ahead. I cannot wait for 2023.
No, wholeheartedly agree with you, pal. Centurion, would you like to chime in here?
I don't know what exactly I can add to the conversation that hasn't already been said. I mean, I'm fully in agreement with everybody here. MLD kind of hit the nail on the head. I've been saying since day one that this announcement came out that Call of Duty was going to stay multi-plat. And it just made financial sense. Like he said, it's going to fund other bigger and better projects that's going to make the Xbox brand very influential going into the future. I also have to agree with Crusader. I am so sick and tired of hearing the words Call of Duty put in the same conversation with Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard. And at least the one thing for me that I loved in this interview, outside of, to be honest, I love how Phil Spencer interviews. He chidefully messes around with the person doing the interview. He always has a sense of humor. He's always smiling. You could tell that, in the interview, he said he's still a software kind of guy. He's not your typical CEO, and that you see that in the interviews. He does feel like he's one of us almost. And you could just see he's tired of talking about this whole situation with Call of Duty. If I knew the guy and I was part of the PR team that he had to talk to before he went out and did interviews, I'd be the guy to be like, all right, who wants to put some money in a pool on how many times somebody's going to want to talk about Call of Duty? I like how in the interview he brought up though that King actually makes more money than Activision and Blizzard put together. That was kind of like a holy freaking cow. That was like, hey, can we please stop talking about Call of Duty, because it really does not make the kind of money we're looking for. Now,
so
King,
he did have to amend that statement, by the way.
What do you amend
They
it
don't
to?
technically make more money; they make more in profit.
with
their margins are better than the other two combined. Revenue wise, Activision actually makes the most.
See, for
Straight
me,
revenue?
that's where for me, because what I do for a living, I've had people try to, like, I have literally had to challenge the owners of the business I work for because they're like, oh, we just made $5,000. Yeah, but there's only a 20% profit margin on that product, so you actually only made 20%. Meanwhile, in other departments, profit margins are about 150%, because they would always try to tell me like, oh, this department is where the money is at. No, it's not. The money's in that department because it has a higher profit margin. And at least like like you said, when we're talking profit margins, King makes a lot of money.
Yes. An obscene amount of money.
And that's the funny part that we have been told since day one, work smarter, not harder. If you can make an ass ton of money with very little output, and you get a lot of input of a lot of money, then the job is done. You work smarter and not harder. Why, it's that whole concept of like, why go hand dig a hole when you've got the auger machine sitting right there that'll do it in no time. And that's where it's that whole concept. And I mean, it kind of made me chuckle at him making that comment, because he's really wanting to take the focus off of Call of Duty, because apparently Call of Duty is the universe's gift to gaming, God's gift to gaming, whoever you want to put it on there. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Gaming could not exist without Call of Duty. And he's really trying to be like, yo, technically King makes more profit than Call of Duty does. And that's where it made me chuckle reading that whole statement. But the funny part is, when I'm reading that, I had no idea that King was doing that much. I had no idea that there was that many people playing freaking Candy Crush. But yeah, like, what can I add to the conversation other than this is going to, like what General MLD said, this is going to be a great time going forward. I really hope they get this deal across the finish line. And as we can all see, that all the boo-hooing and him-hawing about freaking what's going to happen about Call of Duty and where the hell you're going to be able to play it has been for nothing. This whole time, I've been saying the same thing. It's not going anywhere. And I'm hoping that now that if Phil Spencer has just showed this annoyance that every interview he has to do involves having a conversation about freaking Call of Duty, I'm hoping that maybe we can move on from that now and talk about other things. Like, I mean, what happens if they do get Activision Blizzard? What are they working on that we don't know? What are their plans for some of these great titles that Activision Blizzard has been known for that they're completely destroying, like Overwatch 2? Let's talk about other crap than freaking Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. No, hey, I agree with you. We should be able to move on. I hope at some point.
I've got a good friend of mine that's like, his freaking feelings are riding high on Diablo 4. I hope to God they don't F that up.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon. I mean, isn't it supposed to be coming out at least the first half of next year, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
Jez Corden recently reported April.
Really? Mm-hmm. Huh. So no day one, technically, if we can't get the deal approved by then.
So, correct. However, the date that it's pushed to as the end date is only the end date if they determine it has to go that long. Likely it was pushed back, by the way, because of that whole kerfuffle on Twitter. If you had to ask my guess. Because likely they're adding 2 weeks for some kind of review of like what the fuck just happened.
What happened on Twitter, or did I miss something?
No,
or am
the
I
whole
just not making connecting dots here.
We talked about it last week with the dude who was like my PlayStation.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Oh, okay. I get it. My PlayStation.
Yeah,
yep.
It was most likely pushed back because of that. If I had to make a guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there's no other real reason I can think of to move it 2 weeks. Unless it could also be some kind of holiday. They might be being like, hey, you know, can we build this in for this time or something like that. But yeah.
True. Gentlemen, any other comments before we start sunsetting this sucker? Yes, no? Okay. All right.
I apologize for coughing during MLD's part. I couldn't
Oh,
stop.
my mic was changed to something else. Yeah, all good.
I couldn't like hit the mic in time.
I can just imagine the struggle at your end. It's all good. It's all good, man. It's all good. But yeah, guys, I think that about does it for tonight. Really good talk from the group tonight, discussing our thoughts on Pentiment, Phil's latest interview statements, and the various VGA nominations, and a few more things. Josh Sawyer's interview, we touched on that. Now, to everyone here that tuned in live tonight, it was really awesome seeing you all here. Really, really awesome chat. You guys are much appreciated. And if you enjoyed our talk, then guys, please consider leaving a like, sharing the show out, and of course, subbing to the channel. I know I repeat myself during the show at certain points, but hey, you know, it does really help us out, and we would love to have more people just stopping by, tuning in. But we really do appreciate your efforts. But with that said, let's move over to the outros, starting with Mr. General MLD. Buddy, hey, fun show tonight with you. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at MLD Ghost on Twitter. Gamertag is Ghost MLD. And yeah, it was a great show. Looking forward to the next one.
Agreed, buddy. Next up, Centurion. Pal, hey, awesome stuff tonight. Really good commentary. Where can all these fine people find you at?
Thanks, guys. It's always a blast to be here, have these conversations. Thank you to everybody in the chat that tunes in and checks us out, whether it's live or on the replay. Be sure to give the show a like and subscribe. For those interested in wanting to follow me, you can find me at Centurion1307. I'm on YouTube, Xbox Live, taking Twitter one day at a time at this point. But for those who also want to hear more podcasts, obviously I'm here every Sunday night right here on TXR. And I'm also over on Gaming Beyond the Box with the great Wilmy Hood. Obviously he's been busy a lot lately. We've all been busy. I mean, freaking, oh my God, everybody's freaking working so much lately and not making enough money. But hey, work comes first. So yeah, when we have time, he does the show, and every time he says there's a show, I'll be there.
Sounds good, and I look forward to hey, Gaming Beyond the Box. Love Wilmy and the crew there, of course. Next up, Eric Shockley. Buddy, hey, I thought you had a really awesome night. Like, great commentary as well from you. Where can all these fine people follow you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at Shock Nero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, good show tonight. See you guys later next week.
Short and sweet. I like it. Next up, Crusader. Pal, where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me on basically every social media platform at Crusader3456. I am now on all of them, just in case. So yeah, you know, come and hang out. It'll be a good time. Follow me on, you know, basically everything.
His information's down below in the description, like all of us.
Yeah, it's Crusader3456. Yep.
Yeah, guys, and I update it pretty often, so just check the description. We're all down there in case you miss it. And of course, I'm Invader. You guys can follow me on YouTube at Invader Gaming. Also, check me on the Bluebird app, Twitter at Invader_1986. Also on other stuff like Minds, Invader Gaming, and so on. Again, check the description. Great show tonight, and we're looking forward to the next one. I know that next week for our American friends is the turkey weekend, Thanksgiving, so you know, we'll let you know what happens there. But otherwise, later everyone, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.